And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we get set for our next game of the night. It's Nova taking on Alpha. We have resumed play, been able to remake into the lobby, so we'll see how things are going to pan out here for our third game of the night.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
I'll just say it is kind of hilarious to see Braum just kind of have like a Poro like reindeer sled to that kind of music heading down the mid lane, just like going super fast. He's got presents to deliver. It's a little over the top epic. Oh boy.
Very intense. Indeed.
For those, though, that are just joining us, we did have ourselves a quick little remake. Unfortunately, a member ended up taking Approach Velocity, which, fortunately, we're still on 10.13, so it's still a little bit bugged. Hopefully next patch, though, we won't have to worry about that. Of course, this is Nova taking on Alpha Nova. Currently already were able to pick up one win today in their first match up against Hong Kong Attitude. Alpha looking for their first appearance of Week 4. And need to start getting some wins back, especially against some of these mid-pack teams that they're kind of close to in the standings, because if they lose out here to Nova, they would drop down to a 2-6 record, and means they would end up getting tied up with either Resurgence or Liab, depending on the result of our final game of the night.
Yeah, it's been a rough start so far for Alpha. Again, take note, this is a very new roster. The previous roster got dismantled. This is a clean slate, and I believe in one of the interviews back then, and where, you know, Alpha has only played together for 1.5 months, so it has been a very, you know, it's a building up process towards this summer.
Yes, exactly, and the hope is that you've kind of already, at least they don't have like a bajillion subs like Berjaya did at the start of spring, where, you know, they would have to test up all these different kind of, you know, team rosters to see whether or not this would work well, this wouldn't work well, so... for Alpha, like we mentioned, it is a rebuilding process, but unfortunately now you're almost halfway through your summer split, which, again, luckily there is 8 slots into playoffs, so you always have that option to say, all right, you know what, we're not going to show our final form until we hit playoffs. But you got to start getting some wins here soon, or else people are going to start taking you for granted. I also wanted to pay attention toward this top lane. First time that we are seeing Rocky on one of his signature pickups, like the Irelia. Going up into bush, and so far actually not doing too bad, able to push in the lane, but I feel like this is going to be a very explosive lane once someone gets their first kill.
Yeah, so far Nova, Rocky having that early lead, early level 3 pickup as well, having to at least trade a little bit of damage. Rocky even having to win that HP war at top side, as well as that CS war. In the meantime, yes, for Alpha, they have a very strong 5v5 with a lot of heavy CC involved. You can most likely try to combo everything else with Bush, and as well as Chen 9, and as well as the True Shot Barrage on top of that, and as well as that Chrono Break. So it's actually pretty explosive if everything lands in a manner that Alpha intends it to be.
See if they can chain that. Look toward top lane, though, as Rocky pushed up pretty aggressive. In comes your River from the jungle. Rocky does know this is happening, has Flash available. Parallel Convergence coming over toward the side. Doesn't even matter that he flashed, as the first blood goes in favor of Bush.
Nicely done by Alpha here, and there's not a lot of vision to work with. There's actually one ward, but it's already a little bit too late as Rocky's extended in the lane.
They saw their G4 kind of had a guilty ward come out, ends up throwing it down into the Pixel Brush. So now he's like, oh, okay, we can now see if he just pass up the river, but not the start they were looking for. And now Bush with a kill. We'll see whether or not he's able to actually kind of snowball this lane, and we'll see how Rocky tries to respond here, as it's rare that we see him on the losing end of an early lane matchup.
Yeah, and then that's what we were talking about earlier. Nova had a, like, despite having the same picks for the rest of the lane, the big difference is that Rocky's not now on a Mordekaiser. He's now on this Irelia, so a bit of pressure right now to make this Irelia work and try to get that, you know, 2-0 Irelia that we usually see and become a huge pain either towards, especially towards Wayland. And so far, not the best, as it is 0-1-0, but then there's still that level 6 that we're looking forward to against Rocky.
Still see Rocky not afraid to throw out the Blade Surge, so we'll continue to keep an eyes on him. But we also mentioned for Alpha is this team usually lives or dies by the performance of Your River and Chen9. The fact that he's already made an impact on the map is a good sign for the side of Alpha when it comes into this matchup against Nova. And all seems to go to plan. Meanwhile, bot lane, though, you do see that just natural pushing coming in from the Ashe with the fact that he has volley. Meanwhile, mid lane, though, Chen9, and speaking of Your River, another parallel convergence, does get the flash out in time, though, on the side of G4, so he'll keep himself safe from that gank.
A little bit scary, though, as without that splash, Alpha can rinse and repeat, try to visit, especially that Chen9 already has that showstopper, is most likely able to either close the distance or remove G4 away from his own tower a little bit more. And yeah, it's going to be definitely a very explosive level 6 if you add in Your River as well on that Echo.
Do want to mention, though, you did look toward top lane. Rocky was able to push in the wave once again. You can tell, even though when he dies, he was actually up almost 25 CS. He had a huge wave he was able to crash into the tower. So that Aurelia not out of the picture just yet. I want to see whether or not Your River wants to continue applying pressure. But the fact now that Ryan is kind of forfeited the top side of the map over to this Echo does mean that he can put priority down toward this Dragon, and they pick themselves up a Cloud Drake to start things off here in their second game of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Nova will definitely take that as a big W start, considering the fact that they were okay with having to give up a few objectives here and there. The first Dragon, based from what we've seen in the first game. And now for Alpha, pressure is a little bit building. They do have a lot of tools to actually get a pick off of G4 at the moment, as he doesn't have flash, but vision-wise, or rather the approach is G4 no flash, then he'd most likely be playing a little bit more safe in the lane.
So there you go. Still has kind of the grab bag when it comes to components, so not a finished component just yet. We'll look toward that, likely that phase, but we do see Chen9 even going for a little bit of an invade here, putting down some vision, and actually gets spotted out here by Pop as he's already looked for the roam. A nice death sentence going to connect. G4 looking for a quick rotation over, but Bush can easily go down the river, has pushed in the lane onto Rocky, so looks like G4 a little hesitant to pull the trigger to try and go for a play.
Yeah, quite understandable. Just as you mentioned, Bush did have priority. And next one is they didn't have information where Your River is.
Speaking
Rocky.
of information, Your River, they're just coming on down. Rocky, good Blade Surge, able to get him back over to safety, but that final auto attack will connect. And Bush will be able to find his second kill of the game.
Perfect timing too. Rocky wouldn't have flash anytime soon, as again, they're able to take advantage of that. And that's 2 kills so far, despite having a good early CS lead in favor of Rocky. Nova, though, still keeping an eye on this Rift Herald just in case Alpha decides to turn on this objective.
And that early aggression that comes out from Rocky, it ends up costing him, especially without the support. Ryan, again, he's forfeited the top side of the map completely, and it's just an easy take here from the side of Alpha.
Yeah, the collapse, there's 3 members on your face. Rocky still have no flash, not a lot of minions to work with the Blade Surge to gain away from distance. And for Alpha, now that they spot this out, good stun.
Oh, nice hook, though, coming out from Pop, but now Your River going to slowly wait on his clone to come back. Has that Chrono Break, ends up joining back into the fight. A nice arrow comes out from Golden Feet, though, all the way from bot lane. Can they finish off? No! It's a triple kill coming out from Chen9 after unleashing the showstopper. And just like that, this game starts to get themselves a bit out of control inside of Alpha.
That showstopper was amazing. It landed towards 3 members. And take note, everyone else in this composition from Nova are a little bit squishy, so not a lot can act as that front line. And, you know, front line or whatever, Chen9 can easily penetrate through that as a set.
And it looks here, Your River gets himself a good flank onto G4, and it was actually a really nice arrow that came out of Golden Feet all the way from bot that was able to get the stun, but like you mentioned, that showstopper just comes in and wrecks the back line of Nova.
Yeah, that is a pretty satisfying face breaker. Getting that double kill and just a couple of auto attacks to finish off the kill that was, I believe was G4 the only one left, but looking very solid so far. That's 5 kills on towards Alpha, 3-0 on towards Chen 9, and at this point for Nova, since Rocky is a 0-3-0 start, we did mention this, that it might start to crumble from this.
Yeah, Chen 9 on that set, 3-0-0 at 10 minutes. That's a big boy. Make mama proud for that set, it would be, as that's the start you're looking for here for Alpha. And we mentioned Alpha is very much this solo QS team that loves to skirmish early on in their matchups. And we've already seen it. Ganks up toward the top lane. A fight onto Rift Herald. Not being afraid to try and put down some vision deep into the jungle of Nova to keep track of where Ryan's even pathing.
Yeah, there's so much vision, especially defensive and offensive wards, as well as you can see a lot of control vision being spread out. Pop, though.
Pop, he's got nowhere to run, able to sidestep away from the parallel convergence. True Shot Barrage comes through, and a deep invade pays off here for Alpha, as that's going to be now the first kill onto this Echo.
And the thing was, Ryan was at top side, hoping to relieve Rocky for the past 10 minutes, since Your River has been focusing on getting Rocky in a very awkward position on this Irelia. Again, no punish at all for that constant, stay in the bottom side of the map, in the enemy jungle. So, no punish, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, kills are slowly building towards Alpha.
It starts to get scary too. Now that Your River, he had 5 assists, but now finds himself his first kill. And Echo, very much one of these champions that, if he's even, he feels pretty good every time he gets an item. Now that he's ahead and already has his Runic Echo, he's going to likely go into his next item, already sitting on 1,600 gold. He's going to start getting scary himself, also running that Dark Harvest, as well as picking up their first Riken of the game, being an Ocean.
And we did mention for Nova, for this scaling composition, it will be fine to give up early objectives, maybe the first, second Drake, and as well as a few kills. But looking at the kill scoreboard, that's already 6 kills in a span of 12 minutes. It could go out of control, which is definitely Alpha style, since they struggled on where to put their leads, where to translate that lead. And because they're super aggressive when it comes to invading, it could be a rinse and repeat strategy that could send them to victory.
Yeah, you say a few kills. Well, 6 at 10 minutes is starting to get a little concerning. On top of that, objective control, never really in the favor of Nova. They actually ended up taking Rift Herald, but it was denied by Alpha because of that triple kill that came out of Chen 9. So, unfortunately, the small victories that Nova could say they're walking away with, well, they still haven't actually been able to claim any of those, other than the one Cloud Drake. And we've talked about this before with Nova. They are a team that will, at times, give up objective pressure, especially when it comes to these dragons early, and Alpha could easily look to set up for a very early Mountain Soul before 30 minutes.
Exactly, and when we look at Nova, though, for Golden Feet, he is doing very well against Wei Lun here in the bottom side of the map, having a very good CS lead. I think the big problem is that when we look at the HTA, there's a lot of answers towards Golden Feet. The biggest question for me, will he be able to replicate how amazing his positioning was at game number 1, considering the fact that you have a Wukong setting up the flanks and as well as the Cyclones. You've got Chen 9. There's so many champions who is able to close the gap that any sort of slow from, your volley will not be enough for you to regain the position that you want to kite.
And to be honest here, too, Wei Lun, he isn't going to be the first target for Nova, to be honest. You already got Chen 9. He's got 3 kills. We already mentioned that this Wukong was able to get 2 ganks with 2 ganks with Your River toward the top lane of the map. So this Wukong's going to be a major damage threat. And, sure, even though if Rocky Vanguard's edge into the backline of Alpha, I think they're already at the point where they have to realize, oh, well, sure, we killed the 80 carry, but there's still this pretty fed Echo, very fed Wukong at this point, where you're going to need a pretty massive shockwave combo to get multiple targets off Alpha.
Yeah, and Golden Feet will definitely struggle when it comes to shredding down these very tanky champions, such as the Set and as well as the Wukong. So it might be too much, so I believe it will be, Nova will be really relying on Rocky and Ryan to be able to contribute in that damage department, and as well as creating, havoc in the backline of Alpha.
And we kind of wondered, are they actually going to go for dives here on Wei Lun? You do see, again, just trying pressure, says, all right, if you're going to try and kill me, I'll try and take you down myself. But a nice kick coming out from Ryan. It's going to net the kill over to Golden Feet. So Nova finally able to strike on the map.
Nicely done, feeding off kills on towards Golden Feet so far, but because of their focusing on their resources at bot side, it will leave open top side, and it looks like the actual first Rift Herald of the game will be taken by Alpha.
And on top of that too, meanwhile, Alpha was already able to open up the turret up in top lane. That's going to put more gold now onto Bush. And even though, CS is equal between him and Rocky, well, Rocky's going to be down probably about now 1,000 gold in that matchup, and opens up now a 3,000 gold lead before even using their first Rift Herald, as we'll take another look on how Wei Lun almost was able to take Golden Feet down with him.
Not a lot of vision to work with for Alpha to get this information. Most of their vision was, invested at top side to see if they can set up Rift Herald. Then, Nova took advantage of this, hoping to get at least an exchange off of the map since they've already lost the first instance of that Rift Herald teamfight. And I think it's still a win. Managed to open up that bot lane and as well as feed a kill towards Golden Feet.
So now with Golden Feet on the board, and also his board completed as well as his boots being upgraded as well, we'll see whether or not he's now going to be able to impact plays. Again, it's very scary the fact that you are going up against a Wukong as well as a set Echo as an AD carry. That just screams, I'm going to get dove a lot during these fights. So it becomes, again, that question. Can Golden Feet keep himself safe during these team fights with his positioning and be able to carry Nova through the late game?
Yeah, and it's so different too. Again, Rocky not on a Mordekaiser this time, not able to take one heavy thread and isolate someone, and that could be a huge problem because, again, backline access is just incredibly heavy in favor of Alpha. Wukong Cyclone, you've got the phase dive by your River, Showstopper by Chen 9, and that's the reason why I'm a little bit worried this time around for Golden Feet.
And it gets scarier too, as now that's going to be the second dragon for Alpha as they start stacking toward Mountain Soul, which they could easily land on 3 plus the shielding. It makes it rather difficult to actually shred down these targets to begin with. Now adding on the extra resistances as well as that shielding. Nova got to be careful not to let that just easily go over to Alpha. I want to see them maybe try and contest for something here soon.
Yeah, I guess good news for Nova, at least by the time that they have to contest a soul point, or perhaps maybe even the third dragon of Alpha, they will be a little bit primed and ready, I suppose, to take them on. I think it's just, again, the matter of having Golden Feet survive throughout the whole duration of the fight, since Alpha gonna have a lot of ults to burn, and Nova can take advantage of that.
There you go, Rift Herald popped in mid lane. That's now going to be about a 4,500 gold lead. And another charge going to come out from Shelly, and there you go. Alpha looking to secure a second tier tower mid. Won't go down just yet, but now taking down that first tier tower allows them to easily put down more vision coverage into the jungle of Nova. We already saw how aggressive Alpha were getting down those early invades. Well, it's now only going to pick up the pace as now Ryan has to get himself back to safety. He's caught in between two places.
Oh, no.
Gets himself over the wall with the ward jump. But still, that collapse very lethal from Alpha if he's left unchecked.
A lot of chain CC that Nova should have to be careful. And for Alpha, they can rinse and repeat having to take over Nova's jungle constantly and sort of choke Ryan off of his own resources in his own jungle, and therefore, with that said, a lot of control over for top side in favor of Alpha, which would sort of relinquish control as well over Baron, and that would be very scary for Nova for sure.
I'm interested to see, though, once Rocky picks up his Trinity Force, are we going to see this Aurelia come back online anytime soon? He has died, 3 times, but you got to give him credit. Still has a CS lead. Wouldn't be Rocky otherwise. Loves farming away and being aggressive in a side lane as he's found a new home down in bot for the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, Rocky definitely one of, I guess, Nova's fallback is usually having to put Rocky on split push duty. Bush will be forced to deal with that, and that would put, Alpha one man down when it comes to setting up these 4v4 fights against Nova, and I feel like that would insanely help, because I think out of everything there to avoid, I feel like the Cyclone would possibly be Nova's bane, and Nova should take care of dewarding as much as they can and not allow themselves to be open for a flank ward, teleport rather, from Bush.
And the thing about this composition from Alpha, you mentioned Bush with this Cyclone being available with the Wukong. They've actually gone with some picks that don't necessarily need the exact wombo combo layering. They have a lot of ultimates that can easily just kind of disrupt the output of Nova, and then they can find picks there that way alongside of Your River as well as Wei Lun just outputting damage. I kind of like this from Alpha because it doesn't mean that, you know, once we hit the 25 to 30 minute mark where coordination's going to be hyper key, they can play for picks like this.
Absolutely, and it's all about having to go hand in hand with the vision control of Alpha that they've been constantly pestering Nova's jungle with, and Nova fighting back as well on that vision war, making sure that Alpha does not have a lot of information to work with. But if you don't have information, then might as well have a death brush to set up with.
And you can see they have put down a decent amount of control wards on the side of Nova, so they understand. They lose vision in the jungle, they lose any kind of pressure that they can try and force back onto Alpha, as that's just going to get cleared out, and it returns back to darkness, and, well, Your River and G4 kind of say, all right. Ryan, actually, alongside G4, they kind of both go, we can't really do a whole lot here, as now Alpha get a little bit of push. Rocky's still in that bot lane farming and split pushing away, but mid lane is going to be pressured here as the second tower goes down.
And Nova has no choice but to watch this happen, because they just really have to slow down the bleed and try to stabilize a little bit more. Good news for Golden Feet, though. He has at least that 2 item spike with Runens and Bork, so it's going to be a little bit of good news. And as Waylon is still about to finish his gauntlet once he comes back, and that's a lot of stopwatches that is still left unused, and it's going to be very, very crucial to try and pop those off if Nova wants to win these fights later on.
Do see this phage, so it actually might be a Trinity Force Ezreal this time around, rather than the Iceborne. We still have to see what his plan is going to be. Already lots of cooldown reduction, so he's going to be shooting out those ultimates left and right. As here we go. 3rd Dragon for Alpha if they're able to secure it, and you know what? Ryan's on the top side of the map. This Dragon has a weird reset, but don't matter, as Alpha's going to be able to secure that pending a Miracle Steal. Not going to happen, though, from Nova. And there you go. Alpha now 4 soul point at 28 minutes on the next spawn.
Very interesting. I thought Nova would have exchanged maybe not a Raptor camp, but possibly topside, since the wave was slowly building, and they've already decided to concede that 3rd Dragon of Alpha and possibly just fight during that 4th Dragon soul point that Alpha will take in the next 5 minutes more or less. But now, because that's out of the way, Alpha can look into regaining control over topside, which means getting topside, that outer tower, will not be possible anytime soon.
And also mentioning item builds here. For once, we're not seeing the Orianna go into something like a Ludens or a Rabadon's. Well, get hold on that. Let's see if Rocky's able to keep himself to safety. You see the aggression coming on out. Parallel Convergence has a flash available. Does he try and turn this one around? Unfortunately, he can't, as Bush is just too beefy already on this Wukong, picking up his 3rd kill of the game.
And we were talking about this, about what happens if Rocky... Even though if, let's just say, it was a stable lane, but I feel like where it crumbles if Nova, or rather if Rocky, gets a 0-3-0 start, which has happened in this game. And for Alpha, even though Nova has a bunch of decent vision on towards their own jungle, the way that Alpha sneakily approaches Nova in every single angle just catches Nova off guard.
And we get to see now with Nova what happens when your top side isn't dominating. Well, now Rocky sits at a 0-4 scoreline. This Irelia is getting soloed out by just 1 or 2 members of Alpha, and it's looking a bit dire. We're going to get to this timer now, 3 minutes in your top left corner. Once that ticks down to 0, Alpha have full control onto pretty much decide how this game plays out, I feel. They can go ahead, pick up Mountain Soul, or at least force Nova into a fight, which these second item spikes aren't extremely powerful considering G4. I was going to finish off my sentence from earlier. He opted into a Leandri's instead of a Ludens or a Rabadon's where you just get that pure damage. No, he has to get something with percent health damage that burns over time to deal with the fact that Chen 9 is 3-0-0 on this set.
Yeah, exactly. There's just so... I mean, the tankiest champions have now been getting a lot of these kills.
Okay, kick on back
Your
by Your
River.
River. Chrono Break gets him back to safety. River, not too threatened there. Only having to use his ultimate. Ryan actually used his flash to go for an insect, and it ended up not panning out.
It's so hard to punish, you know, champions such as an Echo that has some sort of a second life and just a ton of mobility and tools to escape. But at least, you know, Your River not having a flash, Chrono Break will not be available.
Ryan gets himself back to safety. Parallel Convergence did stun it up, but Your River, he's now sitting onto his second item.
Oh my.
Bush coming in for a possible play. Pop is able to get the play back to keep him away from the rest of his squad, but I can kind of see now Alpha looking to position themselves towards the top side of the map, maybe even force this Baron before Mountain Drake will even spawn, so Nova can't even trade something back.
Yeah, and because of Alpha has been constantly in the jungle of Nova, Ryan is 2 levels behind Your River here. Let's see if there's going to be a possible steal, which he has done before. And Your River did miss a couple of smites back then.
Oh,
but
Bush. Hunting,
Bush with the
gonna go
teleport.
ahead, gets that Cyclone up in the knock-up there. Showstopper onto the backline. Golden Feet knocked up once again.
Uh-oh.
And no matter how far he runs, the double kill was there for Bush the entire time. Rocky a little bit late toward the fight. Unfortunately, too late overall, and that's going to be 2 kills going in favor of Alpha, and an easy Baron take here if they choose to do so.
30 seconds, more or less, for at least Golden Feet and Pop. And there's not a lot of vision to work with. Ryan is actually walking slowly towards that pit, but based on how he's moving, he's just probably going to push the wave and not attempt on anything. 30 seconds on the clock, though, for the next dragon to spawn, and that will be Soul Point, which Nova does have time to, you know, go and secure that area.
And like, these fights aren't necessarily the cleanest coming out from Alpha. This is just them kind of throwing themselves into the back line of Nova and getting themselves 2 quick kills. They take down the Ashe, and we mentioned Golden Feet. He has to have pretty much impeccable positioning during these team fights if he wants to carry. And with the enhanced Baron recall, they get back in time for now this Mountain Drake. And maybe Ryan's able to find a kill here on Bush, but he's 3 levels down.
Yeah, he was so behind because of Alpha's constant stay in his own jungle. Wei Lun?
Gets
He's
hooked
fine.
there.
He's an
Ryan
Ezreal.
gets himself a cook. The
Oh,
quick kick.
no!
Unfortunately, guess what? Wei Lun gets himself back over towards safety. Box goes down from Pop, and now he's going to get taken on down. 3-man
Shockwave.
Shockwave. But guess what? That's just such a beefy front line coming out of Alpha. Another Cyclone is going to be Prop, but guess what? Golden Feet still alive
Golden
on
Feet.
toward the side. Golden Feet needs to be your carry over here as well. Wei Lun got nowhere to run, going to the 1v1 against G4, but not going to matter as he's able to survive. Golden Feet holds his ground, though. Gets himself a double kill, but Your River, Wei Lun, as well as Chen 9 still alive and kicking for this Mountain Soul.
Has that regen as well going forward for Alpha, and they're not going to be any sort of near in terms of HP, as Golden Feet will just decide to shove the wave, as that was incredibly close. The problem is there's just so much beefy frontline in favor of Alpha.
We mentioned if Golden Feet can have good positioning during these fights, there is a possibility he can carry back, and even then, he was a little bit scared. Bush decided to try and jump in onto the rest of the other members, but you see, if he's able to not be caught out by any CC, he can kite back and keep himself and his team in the game.
G4 had a very decent 1v1 with Wei Lun. Unfortunately, the damage is not enough, and the regen is just too painful, or too... There's a lot. Ryan, though, again, still very, very behind. 3 levels behind now his counterpart, which is Your River. And it's because Alpha starved Ryan in his own jungle. They've been stealing his camps every single time. And Ryan has to be a bit careful.
Gonna go ahead and try and jump back in onto Yerver, gets a nice kick back, but there you go, instantly into the Chrono Break, gets himself over the wall, and Bush is right around the corner.
Oh, no.
It was all a bait. Rocky, he gets so greedy for that kill. It doesn't pay off, and Bush now 7-1-5 on the Wukong. Ryan gets caught out in the jungle. Luckily can safeguard to safety over the wall into the red pit, but when you use all those resources and it still doesn't pay off, it feels awful if you're a Nova fan.
It's spinning out of control. You've got Ryan. Oh no.
Ryan's just
Oh
dead.
my word.
Ryan
Yes.
just pathing into the mid lane for I don't have a really good reason for him to be there, and this is looking like kind of the style we said that will happen to Nova if they lose out early and they give up all these objectives.
Yeah, I mean, normally Nova is okay giving up a few kills, but all the kills happened at topside, which Rocky needed so badly when it came to getting this Aurelia ahead, and Alpha is now just casually walking towards Nova's base and having to just surgically remove either the members that will get caught out of rotation or just the towers, because Nova will just have to respect the fact that Alpha is in such a huge lead right now with Mountain Soul as that. With that said,
Push gonna come out, Enchanted Crystal Arrow will land, but it's onto the support. Not the target you're looking for if you're on the side of Nova, and that's gonna be 2 inhibs taken. Bush able to also pop his clone right as the hook lands, so no follow-up can be made there by Pop, and there you go, 2 inhibitors taken out of Nova's base, now scarred as Alpha sit calmly at a 10,000 gold lead, Mountain Soul in hand. Unfortunately, not a whole lot Nova can really do.
feel like it's still not a total loss, but Pop, incredibly low. They still have a decent amount of wave clear with the volley, with at least the dissonance coming from G4, but if you stand too close to get that skill in range, you might be open for an engage, a heavy engage coming from Alpha. Absolutely scary.
There we go. Hook is going to land on Chen 9. Not a bad member to have. There's the shockwave, but you can see it doesn't do any damage. That front line does not care about the Leandre he's picked up here. Golden Feet going to try and do his best once again. Is it going to be the Ashe, though? Get some decent damage onto your River, able to flash away to safety, but Wei Lun just jumps on him immediately. Unfortunately, Golden Feet nowhere left to run. His team has failed him. And like that, 4-19, make it possibly 4-20. As Wei Lun looking for the kill underneath the fountain. And like that, Alpha able to dash the hopes here of an undefeated day 1 for week 4 of Nova, as they will take them down heavy-handedly without much opposition in a quick 32 minutes.
Alpha must feel really good after a tough start for them. Now they've crushed Nova in such a very dominating fashion, and Alpha, you know what? They managed to at least solidify that lead and translate that into every single lane.
They saw their big winner, apparently. Doesn't even fit. That's how big this this dub was for Alpha when it came to their victory over Nova. And we kind of mentioned, this has always been kind of Nova's main weakness when we see them play, at least against a lot of these former LMS squads or Taipei-based organizations, where they play so slow in the early game that they give up all this dragon control. And with the fact that you're now having, you know, Mountain or Ocean Soul be the primary souls we have been seeing so far in the PCS, unfortunately, not every game you can give up a Cloud Soul. You can't just be hoping that your RNG is going to be in your favor when the enemy team has full control of your jungle.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is that despite HKA, Hong Kong attitude, getting that early lead, early kills here and there, they're not exactly super aggressive to the fact that they confidently invade as a 3-man and steal all your camps. That's what happened to Ryan. Ryan didn't have any room to breathe at all and had to, instead of pushing topside, had to steal Raptors because he was starving.
Yeah, when the Lee Sin is down 3 levels at that point, you're really hoping for some miracle steals. Unfortunately, Ryan can't always rely on getting a Baron steal in his favor. We'll take a look back toward this was the first Rift Herald fight where it kind of just blew out of control immediately.
And take note, this was the point where Bush was already, I believe, at a 2-0-0 start, and the rest of them. And this is where, Chen9 gets his triple kill. And at this point, I feel like this was the turning point where everything just snowballed out of control.
And MVP for the game, it is going to go to Chen9 in that mid lane, playing his now 9th unique champion pickup on the set. So congratulations over to him, as able to flex that champion mid lane pool as much as possible. Also, credit over there to Bush in top lane alongside your River in the jungle, really shutting down Rocky on his, one of his signature pickups like the Irelia. And unfortunately, can't do a whole lot when your Irelia is 0-4. I love Rocky to death, but don't matter if you're able to keep even in CS if you're still down an item. So back to the drawing board, it seems, here for Nova, as they actually will end up 4-5 at the end of their first round of our regular season.
Yeah, but incredibly happy as well for Alpha. This is going to be a very big confidence booster. Again, it's such a new team and new players at that.
大家好，
Let's
我
go to an
是
interview
阿
with
法三位 Bush。
Bush and Patty.
我这边有几个问题想要问你，就是最近的话，中路赛特似乎成为一种趋势哦。你们这场比赛也是选了出来，请问这支角色在对线上面有什么优势及特点呢？
So it seems like Zed mid is very popular recently and everywhere. So is there any advantages for using Zed mid to choose Zed mid?
赛特可以走很多路嘛，然后走到中路的话，前面还蛮能带节奏的，然后 counter 也比较少。
Okay, so Zed, if you use Zed, you can use it in all the lanes. So it is a band pick trick. Also, if you use it in mid, it can help out other champions in making advantages in the early game, and later on, it can also help out with late game.
你们在队伍的构成上面，其实蛮大的部分会仰赖打野跟中路作为核心，然后艾克看起来就是一个很适合这样的体系嘛。那你们这场比赛其实早就已经有想法是要让艾克来 carry 嘛，包括他在前期其实也帮助你的上路取得非常大的领先。
So you guys chose Echo pretty early on in your ban pick. Did you guys decide on using Echo as a jungler, or did you guys decide that later?
其实也不是一开始就要走打野，因为艾克也可以中路嘛。就如果对面中路有出一些可以让艾克好打的角色，艾克也去中路。
So not necessarily that we knew that we're gonna use Echo in the jungler, but because we can also use Echo in the mid lane. So if the opponent chose something that Echo is easy to counter with, that we can use Echo in the jungle too, in the mid too.
OK， 好，那我们也是谢谢 Bush 来接受我们的采访，恭喜你们赢下这一场比赛。哇，那这就是其实从 Bush 刚刚的访谈中也有提。
And coming back over to us, of course, overall, seems like a pretty simple play. Idea of what they wanted to do during the draft, having that flexibility for the team, and just overall a really good performance coming out of Alpha, especially from this mid-jungle duo, which we kind of say is the lifeblood of Alpha when it comes to their performances. So again, congratulations over to them. Fortunately for Nova, it will only be a 1-1 start to their week 4, but of course, there's still plenty of League of Legends to be played out, as our next game, it is of course going to be Berjaya Dragons taking on J-Team. So stick around, we'll be right back after a short break.
CTBC Bank is Taiwan's top financial institution, but we're not stopping there. We're crafting an international brand and already have over 260 outlets in 14 countries. We are by your side, ready to embrace the future.